Alrighty, last time we left off on the loss of the 13 American colonies, and to just sum up, basically Britain is losing its empire. It had lost a huge portion of British America, which was its most populous overseas possessions. We had in 1776, in addition to the beginning of the loss of American colonies, publication of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, arguing that the colonies were redundant and the free trade should be replaced by old mercantilist policies that had characterized the first period of the colonial expansion dating back to the protectionism of Spain and Portugal. The growth of the trade between the newly independent United States and Britain after 1783 seemed to confirm Smith's view that political view was not necessary for economic success. Political control was not necessary for economic success. Events in America influenced the British policy, and in Canada and tensions between the U.S. and Britain escalated during the Napoleonic Wars, leading to the War of 1812, but it ended in 1814, the Treaty of Ghent. And now we'll talk about the rise of the Second British Empire, that is characterized by 1783 to 1815, and this encompasses from 1789 to 1815, the Napoleonic Wars. And just to review, this is a picture of all British territories that have ever been maintained at any time, and we're going to see some significant expansions over here. So here's a picture of James Cook, who's famous for his. He said that his mission was to find the southern continent of Terra Australis, and I bet you can guess what continent that turned out to be. So since 1718, transportation to the American colonies had been a penalty for various criminal offenses in Britain, with approximately 1,000 convicts transferred per year across the Atlantic. Forced to find an alternative location after the loss of the 13 colonies in 1783, the British government turned to the newly discovered lands of Australia, which is kind of depicted right over here. A little tiny place, not filled into the map yet. The western coast of Australia had been discovered for Europeans by the Dutch explorer William Jans in 1606 and was later named New Holland by the Dutch East India Company. But there was little or no attempt to colonize it. In 1770, James Cook, who we see pictured here, discovered the eastern coast of Australia while on a scientific voyage to the southern Pacific Ocean. He claimed the continent for Britain and named it New South Wales, which ended up being one of the provinces of modern-day Australia. In 1779, Joseph Banks, Cook's botanist on the voyage, presented evidence to the government on the suitability of Botany Bay for the establishment of a penal settlement. In 1787, the first ship of convicts set sail, arriving in 1788. Britain continued to use transports convicts to New South Wales until 1840. The Australian colonies became profitable for wool and explorers, and Melbourne became the largest city and was the largest city in the empire after London. Also during Cook's voyage, he discovered New Zealand. So this led to a huge expansion of the British Empire. They had to make treaties with the Maori tribes, and this was accomplished with the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. Actually, February 6, 1840, by Captain William Hobson, who signed it with around 40 more Maori chiefs. Continuing on, around this period, we also have the Napoleonic Wars. Here we have a picture of the Battle of Waterloo that ended in the defeat of Napoleon. But again, Britain was challenged by France under Napoleon, and that struggle, unlike previous wars, represented a contest of ideologies between the two nations. It was not only Britain's position on the world stage that was threatened, but Napoleon threatened to invade Britain himself, not just as his armies had overrun many countries on continental Europe. The Napoleonic Wars were therefore one in which Britain invested large amounts of capital and resources. French ports were blockaded by the Royal Navy, which won a decisive victory over the Franco-Spanish fleet at Trafalgar, the Battle of Trafalgar with the famous Lord Nelson in 1805. Specifically, I think it was 1805, October 21st, which is Trafalgar Day, and October 25th or 28th is St. Crispin's Day. But neither here nor there, but different points in British history. Overseas colonies were attacked and occupied, including those of the Netherlands, which was annexed by Napoleon in 1810. France was finally defeated by the coalition of Europe and its armies in 1815. Britain was again a beneficiary of the treaties. France ceded the Ionian Islands, Malta, which had occupied in 1797 and 1798 respectively. Mauritius, St. Lucia, Tobago, Spain ceded Trinidad, all these new territories, and also they got Calion.